Over at the lower house, there is a consensus to approve at the committee level the proposed Bangsamoro Basic this month. This despite calls by some members to suspend deliberations on the BBL. Again, here's Freddie Abando.
The House Ad Hoc Committee on the Bangsamoro, chaired by Congressman Rufus Rodriguez, is working overtime to continue its deliberations despite the failure of the PNP's Board of Inquiry, the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process, the AFP, and officials of the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao to beat the deadline to submit its initial report of the Maguindanao incident last Sunday. Although majority of the House members are in support of the approval of the proposed law, a few are pushing for the suspension of the deliberations.
I, for one, want peace. And I believe every Mindanaoan also wants a lasting peace. Let us look for a better solution to this problem. If we have to negotiate, then we must do it with sincere parties, with clean hands and pure heart. Mr. Speaker, I move that this House Bill number 4994 be set aside. In the meantime, while there is an ongoing investigation being conducted, let us suspend our actions on this bill until the MILF is found innocent.
I similarly seek the peace both the government and MILF seek. But with it, I demand justice, truth, and accountability. For while I pause for silence and saying a prayer for each of the fallen 44 men of the PNP, I also pause for solitude and steadfastness to focus on what needs to be accomplished in the midst of the emotions, outbursts, threats, counter-threats, bloating, knee-jerk reactions, and rush to judgment. Else, we may fall into doing something in the heat of the moment and find ourselves eventually as victims when the dust of armed conflict have settled.
The resolution to compel the four agencies was authored by House Defense Committee Chairman Rodolfo Biazon, a former chief of staff and a veteran of the Mindanao campaign in the early 70s to the mid-80s. Biazon also called for the suspension of deliberations on provisions related to security concerns in the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Bill. Today, Biazon also called for the submission of the operational plan to deploy a contingent of the PNP Special Action Force to secure the arrest of Malaysian terrorist Marwan. Biazon also pushed for the submission of the post-operations report on the Maguindanao incident. This will ensure transparency and accountability in the inquiry of the incident.
I would like to have a copy of the O-Plan Wolverine. Number 2, the after operations report of O-Plan Wolverine. And number 3, the normalization agreement that is now being crafted at Kuala Lumpur. I want a copy of that so that we can examine all of these documents together with the other documents about the investigation report so that we can examine how we are going to craft certain provisions of the BBL.
Discussions of the provisions of the proposed basic bill has led to considerable progress. The overriding concern of the committee is to address provisions with constitutional questions. In all, there is a consensus to approve the measure and submit it to plenary by the third week of February.
All sectors now, all parties will have to make sure that nothing untoward will happen again, because if it does, this mga basapano already affected us. So how much more? There's another one that will come out. So it will really, delay the approval of the BBL.
For the People's Television Network, this is Freddie Abando reporting.